Guys, what is up? Today we're going to be putting some big brakes on the Z. These are Z32 calipers. I believe they come in iron and aluminum. These are the aluminum. I'm not quite sure if one is better than the other, but aluminum is lighter, and lighter is always better, so that's what I went with. I picked these up on eBay. You can find them at a lot of junkyards. You just gotta find an old 300ZX. So you can see this is what the caliper looks like. It's pretty big, and it's a 4-piston caliper, and I already have this one apart because what we're going to go ahead and do before we paint this and everything, the ones I got specifically, you can see the dust boots inside are kind of old and ratty, and it really just doesn't look too good. So what we can do for about $10, that is the price of new seal kit on rockauto.com, for both of these, we can go ahead and just take everything apart, replace the seals, and it'll make sure it's 100% because we don't really know where these have been and what they've been through. So what we're going to go ahead and do is pull it apart. You can see we've got the two halves right here, and these are the seals. We have this dust boot and a retainer clip that goes over them. Those are on the outside of the piston, and then on the inside we have this seal, and then this tiny little guy goes between the two halves. If you can see, there's a little groove in there for him. And then we do want to go ahead and remove this little fitting. This is on the back of this one right here. Oop. It fits inside of there where our brake line attaches. If you're using the stock 300ZX Z31 brake lines, you need to remove it. If you're using Z32 conversion brake lines, you don't. So it is just up to you. I'm sticking with stock brake lines for the moment, so I have to remove that fitting. So let's go ahead and jump into it real quick. We're also going to repaint this when we're done. But what I went ahead and start off by doing is taking it apart. And before we can start pulling the two halves apart, what we need to do are get these pistons out of here. So what I decided to do, what was the easiest for me, I took two flat blades. We'll go ahead and grab this piston real quick and show you. I took two flat blades, and this is how it sits in here. And I put one on either side right here, and then I kind of just pried up. And what you can do is you can get an air compressor and you can put it in through the fitting, but you need a rubber tip to kind of seal it. And then you kind of want to get all of them out at once, so you have to block it off. If you want to see what that looks like, you can go to Turbocharged Creations. He did a caliper rebuild as well, and that was what he did with his. But I found it just a lot easier to just kind of get two flat blades and pry it out. What you want to do is keep pressure even on both sides so it doesn't get jammed one way or another. But there shouldn't be any problem with just getting a flat blade and pulling it out. So I'll go ahead and put this in the vise, and I will show you guys what I mean by doing that, and we'll see if we can get this one apart. Alright guys, so here we are at the vise. I do have a towel underneath it because it does like to leak brake fluid, at least the ones that I got. Yours might be completely clean, but I doubt it. So if you want to keep it from getting all messy, I would suggest putting a towel. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take these little guys, and you can take off, I'll show you first, you can take off these dust boots. They don't need to come off, or they don't need to stay there because we are replacing them. So you can pull them off like that. It's really simple. And now there's this little groove that we just want to stick our flat blades in here. And we want to try to get them 180 degrees opposite of each other. And then what we're going to do is just carefully pry the piston out. And here it comes. This is pretty easy. Takes a little bit of force to get it going. And now the piston's almost out. We're going to go ahead and leave it in there for now because it'll start spilling fluid. And we're going to do that with all the rest of these. I'm going to go ahead and take the boots off of these just so we can get to this little kind of ring a little bit easier. And then we'll go ahead and get it off. Alright, now I'm just going to go ahead and pull each of these pistons out, and I did drop one of these before and quite a lot of fluid came out, so you do want to be careful. We'll go and wipe these guys down real quick and then get this over to the bench. Alright guys, one thing we want to do before we take it back to the bench, we want to put it around, or flip it around in our table vise real quick. We're going to go ahead and tighten it down a little hard, just so it kind of clamps it. And now there's 14 millimeters that hold these on. 2 on this side, 2 on this side. And we want to go ahead and take those off because we need to split this apart to get to that inner seal. You can use a socket. I'm going to use a wrench like this and a hammer. These ones are on pretty tight, and it makes it a little bit difficult if you have it just on the bench, which is why a vise is good. So we're going to go ahead and just smack this. I don't think there's really any problem with doing it like this. An impact would make it a lot easier though. Alright, since we got all these loose, we can go and take it back to the bench now and get all these off over there. Alright guys, as you can see, we now have 2 halves of the new caliper, or the other one that we haven't done yet. And what we're going to go and do, see if we can see this real quick. You can see that black line in there. That is another seal. So what we're going to go ahead and do is get our pick, and we're going to pick that out pretty carefully because we don't want to scratch the cylinder walls. Alright guys, and the last 2 seals are right here on these little guys. You can just get a little flap blade or a pick, pull them out. Really easy like that. And that is all of the old seals out. Now we're going to get our new seal kit and we're going to go ahead and fit all of these back in. But before we do that, you can see this one specifically, see if we can get on there, it is pretty dirty in there. So I'm going to go ahead and use some brake clean and a rag. We're going to clean all of that out and make it looking nice and shiny like these other ones that I've already done. Alright guys, one more thing that we're going to go ahead and do real quick, I forgot, is get that little tiny fitting out of the back here. So hopefully you can see this hole in this one. What we're going to go ahead and do is grab a punch, just going to kind of look like that. And we want something that fits on the fitting but doesn't interact with the caliper itself. We're just going to take a hammer and we're just going to hammer it out. Alright, you can see little fitting came right out. Perfect. Now I'm going to go ahead and clean these calipers up a little bit more because we are going to be repainting them. And then once those are all clean, we can put in our new seals. Alright, you can see we've got them all taped up for paint now. You want to just cover the cylinders. We don't want to get paint in there. And then I painted or taped off like these flanges here, specifically because that is a sealing area and we don't necessarily want to get paint where it seals, but also we don't really need to paint there. It won't be really a problem. So now what we're going to go and do is take this outside and we're going to hit it with some really high temp primer. I'll go ahead and show you what paint we have right now. Alright, these are the paints we're going to be using. First off, we have a high temperature primer. This is up to 2,000 degrees. This is a great brand, Rust-Oleum, so if you want to do it yourself, this is a great thing to use. We want to put down a couple thick coats of this guy just to keep it really have a good base. That way our paint doesn't flake off. And then I'm going to do it classic red, and I wanted to do the Nissan lettering black, so I did buy this, or you could just kind of leave it as is, or even like kind of make it a nice polished finish. Then we're going to end up doing a high heat gloss coat on top. So this is going to be, it's just going to make it really nice and shiny. And I think it's just going to look really good with all these together. So what we're going to go ahead and do is hit it with a coat of this, wait about 15 minutes, hit it with another one, wait about 15 to 30 minutes, and you can do another coat if you really wanted to, or you can switch to the color at that point. We're going to do 2 or 3 coats of that as well. We do want a pretty thick layer of that guy. Then I'm going to go ahead and stop right there. I'm going to sand down the lettering, and then I'm going to either spray on or just kind of like paintbrush on this guy, because it might just be a little bit easier to use a brush since I don't have to tape off everything. And then once these three are dry, we're going to go ahead and give it about an hour in between the last paint coat and then our gloss. And then we're going to give it about 2 coats of high gloss. And then what we're going to go ahead and do is put in the oven. I'll put a temperature on your screen right now for what we're going to set it at. And we're going to leave it in the oven so it really bakes it on. And that's what you want to do with a lot of these caliper paints. They don't really tell you a lot of the time. A lot of them are just like spray it on your car. But you definitely want to bake them on. And it's going to make them last a lot longer. So we're going to go ahead and stick the calipers in the oven once we're done. And it should really just solidify that coat and it will last a long time. So let's go ahead and get painting. Alright guys, what we're going to go ahead and do now is seal these bad boys up. So you can see I've already done all of these on the other ones. I just wanted to go ahead and show you it's really simple. We're going to go ahead and get a cup. I used a bottom of a water bottle. We're going to fill it with a bit of brake fluid. Now my brake fluid is gold on purpose. It is not bad brake fluid. You want to use nice, fresh, clean, new stuff. Typical .3 is clear, so if you have .3 and it's not clear, it's not good anymore. But anyways, mine is supposed to be like that, and what we're going to go ahead and do is just get brake fluid around this. I'm wearing gloves because you don't really want brake fluid on your skin. It's not great for you. So if you have gloves like these, it works great. And it's real simple. We're just going to put this in the groove on the inside and then hold it down and just kind of run our finger along the inside, and we push it in as we go. And it just snaps right into place. Super simple. You can see that's all good. Now we're going to go ahead and grab a little bit of brake fluid on our finger and just wipe it around in there to kind of lubricate. Now we're going to go ahead and grab our piston, and we're just going to kind of gently put it in like this, and it's really simple to just kind of push it down into it. There will be a little bit of resistance, but that's normal. And now what you want to do is about stop where this lip meets the outer lip, and we're going to grab this dust boot. We're going to just stretch it out and around. It is a little slippery with brake fluid on your fingers, so it might take a little bit to get it. Go and stretch it around like that, looking good. Make sure it seats all the way in. Alright, now the next thing that I found is a little easier is to push this all the way to the bottom of the cylinder. We're just going to kind of give it a little bit more pressure. Just get it all the way down. Doesn't have to be all the way to the bottom, but now what we're going to do is we're going to push this boot around this outer lip here. And that it makes it difficult when the piston is out a little bit because it won't stretch properly. But there we go. Now we're going to take this retaining ring. You can see it overlaps on purpose. The actual one won't overlap. It'll actually have a space. But we'll go ahead and we'll just work it around. What I found is easiest is just to kind of put it in one side and then use your other hand to really just work it, and then hold and then work and then hold and then work all the way around. And there we go, it's nice and clipped in. And that is pretty much all we need to do to seal these guys up. Now we do have these really small rings that go between the two sides of the caliper. You need 2 sets of seals when you order these for both front calipers, one for the right and one for the left. both of them came with 4 rings in them. So I've got 8 rings total. We don't need 8 rings. I don't know why they give it to us. On the front part of the caliper here, it's got a little divot, and I put these in brake fluid again, and it just sits in like that, right in there. So I don't know why they give us 4. There's only a divot on the insides of the calipers. Move this guy back. So we only need 4 of these seals. I don't know why they gave us 8. But we'll go ahead, seal these guys up, drop these ones in. Alright, now that we have all these seals in, we're going to go ahead and grab our big long bolts to go through the whole thing, and we're just going to sandwich these together.